My husband used our savings to buy a luxury car to impress his sister's wealthy family. But I registered the car in my name. Hi everyone, I'm Nina, I'm 35 years old and I work as a nurse. I've been in this field for quite a while, over 10 years. Although it can be exhausting at times, I truly love what I do. There's something about helping people that just feels right. Some days I come home completely drained and collapse on the couch, but overall, I'm proud of my work. It pays well, it's stable, and honestly, it feels good knowing that I do it not just for the money, but because it's fulfilling in other ways too. My husband Ryan, who is 36, works as a management consultant. His job is very different from mine, lots of meetings, spreadsheets, and business trips. Honestly, I have no idea how he manages to keep track of all those reports and charts, but he's good at what he does. Despite his crazy schedule, he's always been very supportive, which I really appreciate. We've been married for 5 years. I know money can be a touchy subject for some couples, but for us, it's always been something we can talk about openly. From the beginning, we agreed to start an emergency savings fund, and every month since then, we've been contributing to it. Now, I won't lie, saving like that hasn't always been easy. We've had to cut back on a lot of things over the years. We skipped luxurious vacations, rarely went to fancy restaurants, and tried to be smart with our spending. There were definitely moments when I wanted to splurge on something nice, but I kept reminding myself that saving for the future was more important. I don't even own a car. It's not because we couldn't afford one, we probably could, but I just didn't see the point. The area we live in has a decent public transportation system, and I've always used it. There's a bus stop near our house and the train station isn't far either. Getting to work is pretty easy, so I figured, why bother with a car if I don't really need it? Honestly, I enjoy the commute. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. It's my little break, a time to relax, listen to podcasts, read a book, or just zone out and let my mind wander. Sometimes I even enjoy people watching. Something interesting always happens when you're on a bus or train. Sure, there are delays sometimes or I end up squeezed between strangers during rush hour, but it's usually not that bad. Plus, not having to deal with gas prices, car insurance, or maintenance is a huge relief. Ryan does have a car because he sometimes needs it for work, so when we go somewhere together, like visiting family or running errands, we just use his. It's never been a problem. And honestly, avoiding the whole car ownership thing has saved us a lot of money. A few months ago, Ryan's sister Carla, who's 27, got engaged to her fiancé Blake, who's 29. They've been together for about 2 years and honestly, they seem really happy. Carla has always been the kind of person who knows what she wants, and when she told us they were ready to take the next step, I was happy for her. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. Blake comes from money. I don't know the exact numbers, but from what I've seen and heard, his family is ridiculously wealthy. They have vacation homes, luxury cars, and they travel like it's nothing. It's honestly the kind of lifestyle I can't even wrap my head around. Carla, on the other hand, didn't grow up like that at all. Ryan's family is solidly middle class, comfortable, but definitely not rich. Growing up, they had to be smart with money. They weren't struggling, but they weren't booking last-minute trips to Europe or buying designer clothes on a whim either. That's why Carla has always felt a little out of place with Blake's family. She's told me a few times how it's been getting to her. I think she just feels overwhelmed, like she's constantly second-guessing herself. She says things like, I feel like they think I'm some charity case, or, I don't know how to act around them, everything I say sounds dumb. I remember once she told me about a dinner they had at some ridiculously fancy restaurant. Carla's a pretty laid-back person. She said she spent the entire dinner panicking because she wasn't sure if she was eating the right way. She stressed over whether she was using the right fork or drinking her wine too fast. Another time she told me about a family trip Blake's parents invited her on. They went to some luxury resort, and Carla said she spent half the vacation feeling like she was doing everything wrong. She didn't know how to tip the staff properly, she felt weird asking questions because everyone else seemed to know how things worked, and overall, she just felt super self-conscious the whole time. She even told me that Blake's mom, while not outright rude, has a way of making her feel small. Like she's constantly being evaluated, almost as if she's silently questioning whether Carla is good enough for Blake. I don't think Blake's mom has said anything directly insulting, but you know that feeling when someone just looks at you like you don't belong? Apparently, it's a lot of that. Carla has also mentioned how uncomfortable she feels around Blake's friends. Most of them come from similar wealthy backgrounds, so they talk casually about skiing in Aspen or their summer homes in Italy, things that just don't compare for someone who grew up budgeting for groceries and worrying about car repairs. Carla says she always ends up feeling like the poor girl, even though no one's really said anything mean. It's more of an unspoken thing. I've tried to be supportive whenever she talks to me about it. I keep telling her that as long as she and Blake are happy together, that's what really matters. At the end of the day, she's not marrying his family, she's marrying him. If he loves her and they understand each other, then all those awkward dinners and weird looks won't matter. I've also reminded her that she doesn't have to pretend to be someone she's not. Blake clearly loves her for who she is, easygoing, grounded, down to earth, and that's what got them this far. I told her, if you're being yourself and Blake's family still doesn't accept you, that's their problem, not yours. But I do get why she's anxious. It's hard not to feel judged when you're surrounded by people who seem like they live in a completely different world. It's not that Carla's ashamed of her background, she's proud of how she grew up, but I think she's afraid that no matter what she does, she'll always feel like she doesn't belong. I've told her that fitting in with Blake's family might take time, and honestly, it might never happen the way she wants it to. But as long as she and Blake are okay, that's what counts. From everything I've seen, Blake is head over heels for her. He's sweet, thoughtful, and always seems to have her back, and that's what really matters. But here's the thing, about 2 weeks ago, all of this came crashing into my life. I had just finished a long shift at work and was absolutely exhausted. I came home expecting to just relax for the night. But instead, I walked out and saw this shiny, sleek luxury car parked in our driveway. At first, I was just confused. I thought maybe Ryan's boss had rented a car or a friend had stopped by. But then Ryan came out looking all proud and excited, and that's when I realized the car was ours. I asked him, what's going on? He said he had used our emergency savings, the money we'd been saving for years, to secretly buy that luxury car. And the craziest part? The car wasn't even for us. It was a gift for his sister. I asked him when exactly he thought this was a good idea. He said Carla had been feeling really down lately because of the stress of trying to fit in with Blake's family, and he thought, very wrongly, that a fancy car would make her feel more confident. That the car would help her feel like she belonged with her rich in-laws. I get that Ryan cares about his sister. I care about Carla too. But spending our emergency fund on something like that was honestly one of the dumbest things I've ever seen someone do. That savings account wasn't just some pile of money we'd stashed away for fun. We spent years building it. We skipped vacations, drove old cars, and kept things simple just so we could have that safety net. It was our backup plan for when life hit hard, if one of us lost a job, or we suddenly had medical bills or needed home repairs. It was there to protect us. Saying I was angry doesn't even begin to cover it. I don't think I've ever been so mad at Ryan in my life. I asked him, what happens if we need that money? His answer made me even more furious. He said he was sure we'd be fine, that it's just money and we can always save more. And the worst part was, he didn't even seem to understand how ridiculous that logic was. Buying Carla a luxury car wasn't going to magically erase her insecurities. I knew she had been feeling anxious about Blake's family, but spending that kind of money to fix it didn't make any sense. I mean, Blake's family doesn't even seem like the type to care what kind of car someone drives. At most, they're probably the kind of family who cares what kind of private jet someone has. The value of that car is probably what they spend on a weekend in Europe. It wasn't even a smart plan, it was a no plan. He didn't think it through at all. We argued for hours. He kept insisting he was just trying to do something nice for Carla and that he thought I'd understand once I calmed down. But I wasn't calming down. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I couldn't stop thinking about all the things that could go wrong now that our savings were gone. And the fact that he didn't even talk to me about it first made it so much worse. So last Sunday, I made a decision, one I know some people might call petty, but honestly, I didn't care. I figured if Ryan could make big decisions without me, then I could do the same. I went behind his back and transferred the car into my name. To be honest, at first I didn't even really know how to do it. I've never owned a car before, so I had to figure it out. I spent some time online researching the process. Turns out, it's not that hard if you have the right documents. Since Ryan had just bought the car recently, I knew all the paperwork was still at home. I found everything I needed, the title, the bill of sale, and the insurance info, all stored in a folder in our filing cabinet. Honestly, I was surprised he hadn't locked it away somewhere more secure considering how much that car cost. I grabbed the folder, took my ID, and went to the DMV. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I figured I'd just explain the situation and see what they said. When I got there, I told them I wanted to transfer the car into my name. Since Ryan and I are married, it turned out not to be that complicated. I had to fill out a few forms, pay a fee, and show that the car was part of our shared marital property. Luckily, since we're legally married, that part was pretty straightforward. Once the paperwork was done, they handed me the new registration, with my name on it. I knew this wasn't the most mature way to handle things, but I was so mad. When I got home, I didn't even tell Ryan right away. I parked the car in front of the house, walked in, and sat on the couch like nothing happened. I knew he'd notice eventually, I just didn't want to deal with another fight right then. Then, Monday morning, I got ready for work like usual. But this time, instead of walking to the bus stop, I grabbed the keys to my new luxury car. I wasn't even trying to be petty at that point, I just figured, if Ryan could blow our emergency savings on that car, the least I could do was actually use it. As I walked toward the car, Ryan saw me and frowned. "What are you doing?" he asked. I looked at him and said, "I'm taking my new car to work." He looked completely confused. "Your car?" I nodded. "Yes, I put it in my name." I don't think I've ever seen Ryan's face turn so red so quickly. He just looked at me for a second, like he was waiting for me to say I was joking, but I wasn't. I had done the paperwork, and now the car legally belonged to me. "Are you serious?" he finally said. "Yes," I replied, opening the car door. "Since you used our emergency fund without talking to me, I figured I could make a decision that benefited me for once, too." I could tell he was the one who was annoyed now. I had to go to work, so I just got in the car, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway before he could say anything else. I thought that was the end of it, but the drama was just getting started. Before I even got home that evening, my phone started blowing up. First it was Ryan, I ignored the call. Then it was his mom, then his sister, then his dad, and more calls from Ryan. I knew it wasn't going to be good, but I finally answered when my mother-in-law called again, mainly because I didn't want her showing up at my house. She yelled at me over the phone. "How could you do this? You're a soulless woman. Poor Carla. You took away her gift because you're jealous." I didn't want to interrupt because honestly, she sounded ridiculous, but I did, just to say. "Are you serious? Ryan spent our emergency savings without even telling me, and I'm the bad guy." She didn't care about that minor detail. She kept going on and on about how now Carla would be embarrassed because she wouldn't have the right status to fit in with Blake's family, and how the car was supposed to help her feel like she belonged. Apparently, I had ruined everything by taking that away from her. At that point, I was completely over it. I said, if Blake's family only cares about what kind of car Carla drives, maybe she shouldn't marry into that family. And if Carla's family cares about the car she drives, they can buy one with their own money. I was also surprised when she said she agreed, the family of her fiancé should accept her for who she is, not what kind of car she drives. She even mentioned that if Blake's family ever made her feel out of place again, she'd reconsider inviting them to the wedding. Carla also had a call with Ryan where she told him she didn't want a car, and that she only felt sad at first because she didn't realize he had emptied our savings to buy it. She made it clear she never expected him to go to such extremes. Eventually, Ryan apologized to me, but it felt half-hearted, like he was only doing it because Carla told him to, not because he truly understood why I was hurt. Since then, we've had several long conversations, and I told him straight up that I don't trust him with our finances right now. I've taken full control of our bank accounts for now, and we're starting couples therapy, because honestly, I don't know how to move forward otherwise. I still have the car, but honestly, I'm thinking about selling it, not to give it to Carla, but to put the money back into our emergency fund. That account was supposed to give us peace of mind, and I want that back. Update 2. After my last update, Ryan and I started couples therapy. Honestly, I went in with low expectations. I was still so frustrated with him, and part of me didn't believe he'd actually listen. But the therapist actually managed to get us talking for the first time. Ryan admitted he'd been feeling a lot of pressure ever since Carla got engaged. Apparently, Carla had been venting non-stop about how out of place she felt with Blake's family, not just because they're wealthy, but because she felt like they saw her as some nobody who didn't belong in their world. According to Ryan, she'd even cried on the phone about how they judged everything, her clothes, the way she spoke, even her laugh. Ryan said he felt like he had to fix it because that's what his dad used to do, step in and save the day whenever Carla felt small. His dad passed away a few years ago, and apparently Ryan had been trying to fill that role without realizing it. The man I've been calling his father was actually his stepdad. I can understand where he was coming from a little, but I told him that none of that justified what he did. I'd been thinking of selling the car to rebuild our emergency fund. It was just sitting in our driveway, a giant reminder of this whole mess, and honestly, I wanted it gone. But before I could do anything, Ryan's uncle, his mom's brother, reached out and said he was willing to buy it from us. The idea of getting rid of the car and having the money back in savings was a relief. So after discussing it with Ryan, I sold the car and put the money back into our emergency fund. Update 3. I hadn't planned on posting again, but my soon-to-be ex-husband did something else wild. After I sold the car to Ryan's uncle, I thought things were finally calming down. The car was gone, Ryan and I were working on our issues through therapy, and Carla seemed to be in a better emotional place. About a week later, Carla called me crying. At first, I panicked, thinking something had happened to Blake or her in-laws. But the reason she was crying: Ryan had secretly bought her another car. Apparently, after I sold the original car, Ryan decided Carla still needed something nice for her wedding, so without telling me, he took out a personal loan and bought her a used, but still very luxurious, car. It wasn't as extravagant as the first, but it was still way more than she needed. And he told Carla it was a gift from both of us. I couldn't believe he did that after everything we'd been through. I told her the truth, that I had no idea and it definitely wasn't a gift from me. I was mortified. To her credit, she was completely on my side. She told me she didn't even want the car, but Ryan had been so insistent that she just took the keys to avoid hurting his feelings. When Ryan got home that night, I didn't yell, but I told him everything I was feeling. I told him I was done. Done with the lies, the secret decisions, and with him acting more like Carla's second dad than my husband. Ryan told me that when his dad was still alive, he made Ryan promise to always take care of Carla. His dad was very traditional and believed it was Ryan's duty to look after his little sister. Well, nowhere in that promise did it say, buy her luxury cars. I understand family loyalty, but Ryan had twisted it into something that was destroying our marriage. He thought that buying Carla things was how he could prove to his dad that he was keeping his promise. I told him straight up, that's not protecting Carla. Carla is a grown woman. She doesn't need Ryan acting like her personal ATM. It wasn't a pretty conversation, but I told Ryan that if he didn't get his priorities straight, I'd have no choice but to leave. And then he said that if I was going to make him choose between me and Carla, he'd choose his sister every time. Because he had an obligation to his family, and that a real wife wouldn't force him to choose. That's not even what I said. But I was too tired to argue anymore, so I just said divorce sounded fine to me. I can't be in a marriage where my husband drains our savings or takes on debt without even telling me. I don't even need him to stop being a good brother, I just need him to not throw away thousands of dollars doing it. So yeah, we're getting divorced. It's still new, and the papers haven't been filed yet, but I don't think there's any changing my mind. Of course, that didn't stop the calls. My father-in-law called next, but I ignored him. Then Carla texted me saying how disappointed she was and how she really needed that car to feel like she fit in. She said she thought we were family and never expected me to be so selfish. That actually hurt, I won't lie. I genuinely liked Carla, or at least I used to. I get that she's feeling insecure about her new in-laws, but at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for fixing that with my savings. I didn't take her car away, Ryan made a reckless decision and forced me to do something about it. Now Ryan isn't speaking to me. He slept on the couch last night, and the tension in the house is thick. I know he's mad, but I don't care. He had no problem making huge financial decisions behind my back, so why should I feel bad for doing the same? Update 1. After all the drama with Ryan's family, things got incredibly tense. Ryan and I barely spoke for several days. He'd give me these looks like I was the one who betrayed him. It was beyond frustrating because he just couldn't understand why I was so upset. The last straw for me came yesterday. I had taken the car out to run errands, and when I got back home, something felt off. The driver's seat was pushed way back, much further than I ever leave it. Ryan is taller than me, so that was the first thing I noticed. The glove box was also slightly open. I got this sinking feeling in my stomach and decided to check, and that's when I realized some documents were missing, including the new registration that showed the car was in my name. When I asked Ryan about it, he didn't even try to deny it. He admitted that he took the papers because he planned to go to the DMV and put the car back in his name, then give it to Carla again, without telling me. The rage I felt in that moment was like a fireball in my chest. I told him if he ever tried something like that again, I'd report the car as stolen. I know that sounds extreme, but after everything, I was so tired of feeling like my voice didn't matter in this marriage. Things exploded after that. Ryan accused me of turning my back on his family and said I was being cruel to Carla for no reason. To him, everything was about how my reaction was hurting his sister, not about how his decision had shattered our trust and financial stability. I reminded him that he was the one who drained our savings without a second thought, and that I was just trying to protect what was left of our financial security. But he didn't see it that way. To him, I was the villain who ruined his attempt to help his sister. I guess someone told Carla what happened because she messaged me that same afternoon. The first thing she did was apologize. She admitted she'd been venting to Ryan about her in-laws without realizing how much pressure he was putting on himself to fix things for her. She told me she never expected him to spend our savings and didn't even know he had done that. She felt terrible about it and thought it was just his own money. Update 4. I'm posting this partially to shut down the comments saying I wasn't actually going to get divorced, and also to update you on Carla's wedding, which I was invited to. Let's start with the divorce. It's finalized. Everything was split 50-50, and now my ex-husband can buy Carla whatever luxury gift he wants, with his half. Which he did. But if you'd seen the wedding, the gift he worked so hard to buy probably didn't even register compared to the gifts from Blake's family. He gave her a diamond gold bracelet before the wedding, pretty, from what I've seen in photos. But it only sparked more drama between Ryan and Carla, because she had already told him she didn't want more gifts like that from him. It got so bad that Carla ended up uninviting him from the wedding. She had invited me long before all of this and didn't take it back when I started divorcing her brother. At this point, we're friends, and I wasn't going to miss her wedding. And yes, the wedding was intimidating. Now I understand Carla even more. But she introduced me to her in-laws, and aside from the mother-in-law who's a little odd, the rest seemed like normal people. No one mentioned buying a gold camel or flying in Swiss chocolates on private jets whenever they craved them. Sure, they dressed fancy, but you could have a totally normal conversation with them. And like I said at the beginning, Blake seemed absolutely in love with her, and that's the only thing that should matter. It's weird that Ryan was so worried about appearances while Blake, with all that money, was focused on Carla.